We opened up our Washington Post on the political side here, and they've got, well, let's put this headline from the Washington Post. They say, White House stabilizers gone, Trump calling his own shots. Now, they're reflecting on the fact that there has been some change in staff there. People who were there at the beginning now moving out, whether they were Obama holdovers, establishment types, personal friends of the president. And now he's choosing cabinet members and aides that more align with his point of view. And they're saying, look out, the controls are off.
Yeah. You also have to remember, though, and we've been following the story from the beginning, and there has been a lot of turnover, but this is someone who hasn't been in politics before. You know, he hasn't run for office. He's not been president of the United States, and so it seems from afar that he's becoming more and more comfortable in that role and getting a better sense of who he wants around him and who he wants to get advice from.
That's a good point. And, you know, yesterday when I was in California in the LA Bureau with you guys, we had Peggy Grande, who had worked not in the Reagan administration, but for many years with President Reagan when he got out. And she really gave a lot of context. She goes, here's, if we just play a little bit of what Peggy Grande, former executive assistant to President Ronald Reagan, had to say about the shakeups and what's going on with the president's decision making.
I think that it's exaggerated that the White House is in crisis. Here's a man who likes change. He's a great decision maker. If he doesn't like something, he doesn't complain about it. He mixes it up. And that's what we're seeing. And some of these personnel changes are beyond his control, whether it's a personal issue with a staffer, a confirmation clog, or anything like that. We see a president who is unafraid to make change. And that's what he's doing. Ronald Reagan did the same and made changes very early on in his presidency. And so that's something that is not new to the White House.
It's good historical perspective. I would also note that there's not a single person working for the President of the United States that the American people voted for. The only people they voted for was Donald J. Trump on Election Day. So it's his prerogative to choose who he surrounds himself with to advance his agenda. So many people investing themselves in people that will save America from Trump, as opposed to saying, how do we harness the beliefs he had on the campaign trail and make them reality?
Right, and how important trust is, and having people around you that you know, leaking has been the biggest problem this administration has faced since they've been in office. So getting people around you that you know have your back and have your best interest at hand. You look at the people that he does have close, like James Mattis, who has not left. He has John Kelly still by him. And you look at the omnibus bill. Who did he go to lunch with right before signing that bill? Whether people supported that or not, he still listens to some of the key people that have been there from the very beginning.
Yeah, and you know, I just want to point out, too, one of the people that recently departed, Rex Tillerson. Now, this story is just sort of hitting the wires, this trip by the liberal Democrat Senator Elizabeth Warren. I want to shift a little bit.
You're fired up about this story.
Well, because
this is all grift.
In the absence of Secretary of State Rex Tillerson leaving and the confirmation of our next Secretary of State, you have Elizabeth Warren, who has aspirations for the 2020 presidential election, going to Beijing, going to South Korea and Japan, and basically criticizing the administration's policies towards North Korea. Let me just put up a quote we've got. I'm not sure if this is, it's quote, not sound yet, but this is Senator Warren in Beijing saying this has been a chaotic foreign policy in the region, and that makes it hard to keep the allies that we need to accomplish our objectives closely stitched in. Again, this happening in the wake of a major cabinet post vacancy. And what happens? Democrats rush in and try and undermine the administration's policies as it relates to North Korea, guys. This is unprecedented.
And huge breakthroughs on that peninsula. You've got North Korea sitting down with South Korea. You've got a promise that Kim Jong-un will meet with President Trump. The rhetoric has clearly brought them to the table. China's doing more to put the squeeze to North Korea. And yet, Elizabeth Warren, is she on the Foreign Affairs Committee? Has she been the Secretary of State? Is that her thing? Or is she just potentially on the ballot in 2020?
Well, this is a clear sign that she is thinking very seriously about 2020.
She's on the Banking Committee?
Yeah, listen, she's on the Health and Labor Committee, and I don't want to, as a reporter, come across too much attacking her, but it is worth pointing out that she is over there at the time of which we have very significant developments happening over there. And even before the Kim Jong-un meeting between President Trump and Un, you have Un meeting with South Korea. She's in South Korea as well, undermining the administration's policy.
It gives you a sense of maybe preview of coming attractions of what 2020 may look like. But as you said, President could have some real accomplishments. We'll see how things play out with North Korea, but also Russia. He's been very, very tough on Russia policy-wise. So we will see how this
the resistance moves overseas, as we see with the Elizabeth Warren.
Yes.